Good afternoon, everybody. It is the 4th of October. It is the fourth day of the government shutdown. And first of all, I wanted to give some corrections for last night's video. I had made a couple mistakes. Part of it was because it was a breaking event, and there was really not much facts given at the time. Um, in the shooting was not a group of shooters shooting at the Capitol building. It was the police shooting at a assailant who was from Connecticut, who clearly has been suffering depression, possibly over the issues that was going on in government. She was concerned apparently about the NSA surveillance that's been going on, as it seems to be. Her daughter, 1-year-old Erica, is fine. She was a dental hygienist. She had a job in. So, the reason why she was shot dead in cold blood by the police department is they were as concerned if indeed she had explosives in the car, and her behavior was clearly not of a person who was acting in agreement with the police department. Now, I also have Lemmy here, and we're going to talk today about some of Lemmy's fears as well as probably your fears as well. Look on, excuse me. By the way, Cumberland Farms, if I may, is having free coffee Fridays every week this month of October. So if you want free coffee or maybe a couple coffees, you can get one every Friday for the month of October. Now, about the woman that tried to that did the chase in Washington D.C. Do you think that since there clearly was no firearms used by her anyway, do you think that they're going to constantly drag in the mental health issue? The gun control issue versus the real issue of mental health, or do you think it's going to be just kind of swept under the rug? Well, I hope it doesn't get swept under the rug, because I think that mental health is a really serious issue, because it's many psychiatrists have said is that it's not being addressed in a very responsible way. So I would say that we need to have that talk. We need to have that conversation, because if we don't, many psychiatrists have said that the mental health system is in shambles. It's not addressing the problem properly. Big Pharma is constantly trying to promote the use of drugs to deal with a problem that may actually possibly be mitigated in part, at least, by therapy. But the problem is that the Medicare, Medicaid, and many private insurance plans refuse to pay for therapy, claiming it is an expensive charge, and it's a long-term charge where it's just cheaper to pay for things like antidepressants and antipsychotic drugs. I think it's a really serious example of when we have put too much trust in big pharma and not looking at the whole problem from its entirety. So I think that we have to again re-look at the whole mental health system as it is currently run in the United States, and see if we can make some reforms to finally fix the real deal. Okay, so definitely mental health in this country is a shame. It is a pity. It's that the right people are not getting the care they need, and on top of that, there's also the stigma of mental health. I don't know why we have a stigma on mental health. I know it seems like we don't have a stigma so much about cancer. We don't have a stigma so much about diabetes. We don't have a stigma on obesity as much. We do, but we don't. Yeah, we do, but it's like we can't hide obesity. No. But there is obviously a stigma on legal blindness, and hearing loss, and of course, hermaphrodites are often stigmatized and often considered the same thing as transsexuals, and that creates a lot of problems too. But that's not the topic here. Um, the mental health system is not doing its job, and it is because it's too over dependent on drugs to fix a problem that clearly may need therapy to go along with the drugs to fix the issue at hand. Now, this lady that did this was a working person. She had a job as a dental hygienist. She was not just a welfare bum sitting on her fat ass. No, she wasn't. She was very active. She had a boyfriend. She had a child with him, and they were doing very well. I guess there was some personal issues in her life that we don't know. The NSA knows more about it than we do, but I'm just telling you what I have picked up from the other newscasts. That they're not talking about the mental health as much. They're kind of leaving that alone. It's almost like they're being told to shut up. Because they want to talk about things. And now, if she had waved around a gun in there, they would have been saying, "Oh, we've got to lock guns down." Yeah, that gun issue is. I'm glad, in a way, I'm glad she did not use a gun. Because it just, now we can at least say, "See, you don't need a gun to cause harm." No, you know. By the way, we also had a chance to watch today on the day on CNN about the original voice of Siri in the United States. I say the United States because there's been many Siri voices that represent the different regions of the world. The one that does the United States, the originals, her name is Susan Bennett. She is from Atlanta. She does voiceovers for different things like commercials, and even does a couple for Delta Airline. Yeah. And me and Lumi were joking, is if we had the technology, would I turn Lumi into a voice application on my computer? I said, I don't think that'd be a great idea. And the point is that this lady has clearly was very, very, in some ways very flattered to know that she has become the original voice of Siri on the iPhone 4S and in the original iOS. I don't know if they're going to still continue to offer her voice as an option. And still a lot of very wonderful work that is done to make those voices. I have a voice on my computer called Victoria, which probably was made the same basic concept of where you would do something where the original Victoria would record quite a few pages of sentences and phrases, and then they would take voice samples of that voice and they type it up into little bits into the allophones and the phenomes and try to make the system speak. It really would have been kind of funny if the technology ever does become the recording part of it becomes mainstream enough that the average person could do it with their friends, maybe with the loved ones that died, or older family members that are, that they want to remember forever. That way you could actually take, maybe for example, your loved father. I mean, I think if your dad's voice was on the computer, I think it would make you weep. It would make me weep because my dad was a very intelligent man, and I think it would be a wonderful thing if I could just see my dad saying, "Oh dear, are you really sure you want to shut the computer down now?" "Excuse me, your disk is full. Are you sure you want to erase that file?" Yeah, that's kind of cool the way they did that with the voices and the breaking it into the allophones and the phenomes and broke it down into pieces. Yeah, it definitely is. In fact, they're using this technology now for variations of it for those who are incapable of speech, um, such as those who have had injuries to their voice box or whatever, where they could. Um, One scientist, speech pathologist, is taking the technology to give voice to those who can't speak, using what they would believe would be that person's natural voice, given their age and sex. I think it would be very wonderful to see if the technology ever becomes available for the common person to use. Hopefully, it would be used for good things. I would hope so. Because obviously, if it wasn't, it could be a whole lot of trouble. I would think that some identity thefts would use that technology to do wrong. Yeah, probably would. That's the reason why I'm saying is I would hope that the technology would be used for good, instead of potentially using it to do harm to another person. Um, Now, also last night we were talking, and like I said, I was growing concerned, but I want to hear your opinion on this. Um, what would you personally do if we did default as a country, and China says your ass is mine? Well, I don't think it would happen overnight. I think it would probably take some time to go through the United Nations Security Council. But since there is a written agreement between the U.S. and China, it probably be fast tracked through. And the I the Chinese people that I know have always been very gracious, very honest, and hardworking, and so I think that the Chinese people would probably see this country more as an extension of China, um, and would work with the American people who are willing to work with them to um, transition things over to Chinese rule fairly quickly. So I don't think it would be necessarily bad, because I think a lot of the handicapped people have grown very disenfranchised with the U.S. system of disability checks. So we realize deep down that the Chinese system is not as bad because it allows you to work. It encourages you to work, like I said yesterday. In fact, there's a couple stories about this. Watching a video on the ghost cities and the ghost mall in China. I say ghost mall, I should explain that there is some stores in there, but the amount of people that go into this mall to do shopping is like virtually nobody. One man that was interviewed said, who runs a toy store, he says, I only sold one toy all day. I sit around, I'm bored, I have nothing to do. But you know what? I got a job, so hey, I can't bitch. I think it's the important thing is that you got to remember you got a job over there. Like I said last night, you want a job, just show up for work, even if it's digging a ditch. The work is there in China. The people in China are hardworking, and their constitution actually has the right. All citizens have the right to a job. It doesn't mean it's going to be a glamorous job, but it's a job. Yeah. Whereas the United States Constitution basically says, if you're disabled, you're screwed. No kidding. I think that even Benjamin Franklin in about 1750, who was seeing the way the social system in the UK was working at that time, was growing extremely disgusted that these people were, even in 1750, were sitting on their fat ass, and didn't really have a job. They felt terrible about themselves. They didn't do anything. Our country decided to go with that system. And it's true that you got people who can't work, right? And those people need something, a stipend to live on. But I don't think it's really quite really fair that capitalist United States says, I'm not going to hire the disabled because, you can't force me to. Under, yes, you can under the Americans with Disabilities Act if they can do the job and they come in and they show fair effort that they want the job. But the sad truth is that in many jobs, even McDonald's, it is definitely have gotten very high tech. I mentioned this before in one of my other videos. They depend a lot on electronics and electronic orders systems to process lunch the requests for meals, and that those LCD screens above the grill don't really make it easy for majority of the Americans who are legally blind to read that screen. Because we would have to have the screen really close to our face, and so I don't think it really would work. What about something like Google Glass? Would that work? No, because people who are legally blind and blind, Google Glass is set for a person who's got vision that's close to 20/20, and does not work with eyeglasses. And even if you are legally blind and you have glasses, and it did come up with a variation of Google Glass, it's still not going to give them clear sight because they're not going to be able to read the orders as clearly as they could because it's not. They need larger print to see the resolution. See, that's the issue. It's the resolving power of the eye that makes it very difficult to do things. And you could have. As I look at things from a distance, everything becomes equivalent to pixelated. Because my resolving power is close up, not for distance. Yeah. So it's definitely not going to work for you anyway. Right. But in China, okay, there are many handicapped individuals. There's a blind man that fixes computers completely by touch. Yeah. You do that too. I do that too, but not as much as this guy does. This guy goes further. And one of the reasons why he can do that is the same reason I can. A lot of the components have, been standardized connection locations and connectors, and they only fit in certain ways. There is, of course, when you plug in all the additional cords like the keyboard, the speaker, and the and reset button and key lock on older PCs, that does the wiring gets a little bit confusing, but there's no reason why you can't do it. If a blind man can obviously set, I don't know how he sets the jumpers on the motherboard. I know that my case, it takes a little bit of eyesight to figure out some jumpers, but I think it's still an example of what people want to do the things that they love, and I think that the federal government of the United States should have allowed the same thing. For example, I love doing the videos. I love coming out to the public. I love what I do as a North American snickering, but I also love reaching out to the public, and I've been working on that now for 2 years, and it's become a major part of my life. And so it's no surprise that when you live in a society that says no, you can't do that because you're blind or you're in a wheelchair or whatever, it really, really is dehumanizing to that person. It really makes them feel like they're the lowest of the low. Incidentally, YouTube has allowed me to do that and reach out to you. And of course, with your help, Bloom, we have done many videos together. And unfortunately, on the individual levels, our videos don't always seem to do quite as well. It's when we're together we do well. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. The question is that what do you think? Do you think it would make sense for me to keep my channel, or do you think it would make sense to close it? I'd keep it because it's a historical document. It's part of your past. It's who you are. I think you need to work on it some more. I think you need to come up with new materials, but I think that I wouldn't get rid of it. Okay, thank you. You said yesterday that you were very worried about what was going on, and what do you, given what you've heard, watching some of this morning's taping of the New Day on CNN regarding what Boehner Aide said that Boehner was willing to work with Democrats to a point, and he did not really want the government to go into default. What's your take on it? Well, personally, I think it's an example of, again, almost like he said, she said. There's like, okay, we as a country cannot afford to keep Obamacare. It's just too expensive. Boehner's Tea Party members knew that. They also knew that a good portion of America did not support the issues about Obamacare. So they were trying to just support the will of people. I think Boehner, if he was allowed, in fact, he did try, his party did try to come up with a compromise that said to the Senate, and it was Harry Reid that was refusing to bring the topics to the floor for a vote. So I think to blame the Republicans for the shutdown is really just kind of missing the whole issue completely. And you say that because I say that because if the Republicans were willing to compromise, they were willing to go from total defunding of Obamacare to ask for a year delay. I think probably was so that maybe they could, 2014, there's going to be some elections, and maybe they were hoping that by that time, election time comes up, maybe then they could have had new members in the House and Senate to maybe rediscuss it. Because you see, Obamacare was originally created by the Democrats when the Republicans were in the minority. It's funny, though, they never talked about the NSA and defunding the NSA. Yeah, that's kind of, I think that's more of a sore point with most Americans, is that, NSA surveillance program under the Patriot Act. What was it, Section 215? Section 215, believing that the FISC secret court has, Federal Intelligence Secret Court, had possibly gone too far and too loosely interpreted what Section 215 of the Patriot Act said. So I think, yes, I think that would have been a much better thing if they had at least talked about that instead of trying to defund Obamacare, which we already know is a hot button topic since it was going to start the day of October 1st, which means that you still at least have been having to pay to run it for a few days. Yeah. If we do not default, do you think our lives are going to go back to normal? Yeah, I think it'll go back to normal, but they can come up with another continuing resolution. It's only a band-aid to the problem because we still haven't come up with a decent budget since 2010. I think that I agree with the Republicans here that maybe the concept of continuing resolutions is not the solution for the long-term problem, but there's a lot of American people uncomfortable with the situation of having to, constantly, every few months, constantly asked to go through the same trials and tribulations. Yeah, and I think too is that American people deserve to be listened to. I don't think most of the Democrats do that, especially senators, because they seem to have developed this attitude. Oh, I'm in here for a few years. I'm gonna control things. I have more clout than the representatives. Yeah, that's true. Now, do you think that yesterday's Rush video really was a good idea? No, because of a lot of reasons why. Because it was a Rush video to cover the breaking events. There was no editing on it. Right, you send it raw from the camera right to YouTube, which, yeah, it was 5.5 gigabytes in size, which is, massive. And Ed, unfortunately, despite the fact I told him not to shut down the browser, he did, and then ended up having to finish uploading it in the middle of the night. So I don't really know if for the quality we gained. I don't think we really gained anything. It took longer. It took a lot longer than if we had converted into our standard MP4s. So I think we'll stick with the MP4 format only because it's a lot shorter and a lot faster to upload it. That's also seems to do a little faster transcoding it than sending it up raw. And third of all is it didn't seem like the picture quality was much of an improvement. I mean, there's a way I can improve the picture quality, but MP4 is kind of lossy compression. You have been obviously trying to cut your own expenses during this time. What do you think is going to happen when if the government comes up with a solution before the 17th? I mean, well, how are you going to approach it? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pay off the bills that didn't get paid yet. There also will be we need to get a few things to the house that we talked about this over and over again. That the computers are do need some upgrades, but I think right now we're still going to go ahead and trim our discretionary spending budget a little bit, but we're going to make sure the credit cards and the debit cards are paid and things like that. Now, Section 8 is open here in Winston, which is a rarity because a lot of Section 8 offices are closed. Yes. So, what do you think? Do you think the department's going to pass Section 8 inspection? I would say, I can't definitively say absolutely, but I would say that there's no reason why you shouldn't. There's been some allegations that I'm a slob. I'm not. I really do work hard to keep my home clean. We got a lot of equipment in here. We got the studio equipment. We got the, lots of books, manuals, catalogs, things like that for my work, computer parts. But they're not thrown, skewed, haphazard all over the floor. The fire exits are not blocked. We have not a hoarder in a traditional sense, right? You hoard files, but you don't hoard material objects as much, right? Do you think it would make sense to relocate in the future? We have talked about that, but I think that to relocate right now, it would be just bad timing. Yeah. Well, let me ask you, what would you do if you, how would you plan to move if you were moving? Well, I think we would, like you said to Crystal, your case management team, you're going to have to put some money away for paying for the mover first month's, last month's, for the new place, the current rent for this place, and you calculate it based on the $700 a month rent. It's going to cost you, for in-time move, it might cost you as much as about $3,000. Yeah. And let me finish. You go ahead. I was going to say if it was me, I think I would probably just stay here for a little longer, even though that there has been people who have been bad-mouthing you and me all over the place. I don't know why they've been doing that, but there's this one lady, we won't give names, that particularly has taken it on her personal mission to cause grave harm to our reputation, and I think it's really kind of despicable. And and I'm not going to say anything bad or good about her. To say is that it's not the people that we hang out with on an everyday basis. This is another tenant in this building that's doing this. Obviously, as long as it doesn't rain, as long as roof doesn't leak at the time the inspector comes, I think we'd be fine. That's the question. Yes, that's the question. I also would like to remind people that we've been working on these videos now for a few years, and like I said yesterday, I'm not a professional news team. We are just individuals that do this because we're concerned Americans. and we want you to be informed and educated into the events going on around the world. By the way, I did find a replacement of that short, uh, extra normal video about eminent domain with China that is now located in the political um, playlist. Really, really informative to watch the whole playlist, but you can watch pieces of it too. Yeah, and I think it'd be educational. Now, I'd like to again remind every single person who is watching these videos that me and Lomi really need your comments. It's not because we're trying to be self-conceited assholes. We actually would like to know what you got to say because, like I said before, everybody has an opinion and wants to make comments, and we welcome your comments. And by the way, I am also working, as I said, still to try to get together planned. Um, we might have something planned for possibly for tomorrow, impromptu gathering, but we'll have to see how that works. I don't have any more details on that. I'm waiting for the other people to get back to me with date and time, or times and days that they might be able to do it over at Berry Tree here in Winston. So I will post that information up on Facebook, either in a quick blog or in as a message right from Berry Tree itself about when we're going to get together, hang out, and I think that's a great thing. Also, we want to remind you during this time of shutdown, your local businesses still need your patronage. I know a lot of people on disability are, and a lot of have a lot of fears, as let me point out yesterday, and I think we need to keep in mind that I personally don't think China is going to let us starve, at least as I understand it. There is certainly going to be a transition time where we're going to be, coming together with thoughts and things like that, but I don't think China wants to see us starve at all. No, I don't think so either. So, leave your comments in the section below here, and please do like and subscribe to our channels. And if you want to make donations, the information is in the page below. And like I did see yesterday, if something does happen on after the 17th and we are knocked offline because of China or whatever, I want you to know that I will always be with you in spirit. And of course, I will be with you in spirit this winter. Of course, you will. You're going to be freezing their ass off. Well, maybe not quite freezing, but they're going to be, definitely it's going to be more balanced the weather than it was last year. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out. Also, of course, for those of you under the effect of Hurricane Karen, or possibly Tropical Storm Karen, I wanted to let you know that I am I'm wishing you the best of luck in your survival down there in the Gulf Coast area. So please don't think that I am not concerned about you. I am. I'm concerned about everybody. It's one of the reasons why these videos are so important to me to reach out to you. So I'm going to let you go, and I'm going to let you go. We're going to talk to you soon. So don't forget to like and share. We'll talk to you then. Okay? Bye-bye.